Squidge.
2020, Edinburgh saw a narrow win over Glasgow. That was New Year's Day. Shit, okay. Somebody knocked the ball on. Somebody else probably knocked the ball another time, and honestly there was a period of about 4 months where there just wasn't rugby. The entire test schedule was ripped up and they had to start again. It wasn't even legal to have a chuck about playing rugby in the park. Look, I'm sorry I'm thin on the ground in headlines now that we're on to day 8 of this, but in amongst the lockdowns and the other lockdowns and the other lockdowns and the New Zealand, this was a year in which some rugby was indeed actually played by some people. To celebrate the best of the rugby we did get to see played, it's time for part 2 of the now officially annual Squidge Awards, and we're going to begin with the infamous Finn Russell Award for Best Pass. There were a few things in contention. This by Jameson Gibson Park to unlock the Munster defence was golden. Rumi Vakatawa flicking out the back here was pretty nice to create a try. Dan Bigger began the year with this brilliant mad Carlos Spencer tribute, chucking it for his legs, and Finn put in a few contenders, probably the best being this ball for Simon Zebo in the European final. And then we have this by Fly Half, Maeli for the Napier boys, pulling, wait for it, yup, that. It's a strong contender, but third place was inevitable. Peter O'Mahony, the latest cruel project player to tie himself to Ireland for purely financial purposes instead of playing for his native beloved country of Fiji through this great offload to put born and bred Galway boy Bundy Aki in for a score against Italia. Second goes to this pass by Brazil's Moses Ducu, who I'm just gonna loop this pass here. Just have a look at it. Anyone that hasn't seen this, look at it and wonder why Gavin Henson is now Brazilian. But the pass of the year itself came against Omani's own team. Way back in January, when Racing 92's Teddy Ariboren took a moment to weigh up throwing a normal pass, but instead decided, nah. He closed off his arm, he inverts his whole body, and he fires it out the back at some speed, like Gareth Edwards on acid, right into the arms of Teddy Thomas, who can score in the corner. It's brilliant, it's mental, it makes no sense, and it's the pass of the year 2020. I asked you guys for your try of the year suggestions, and a few I hadn't noted down did come in, so thank you to Adam Dixon for this glorious winning score by Tom Willis in the 77th minute for Wasps against Bristol, and for Philip Glover for this great team try for Ulster, a fantastic set move, eventually finished in the corner by that man again, Mad Doggy Madigan. And then 2 tries to prove the phrase, it's all rugby. The fittingly named Sloth 3183 suggested Xander Ferguson's score against Italy, which is frankly quite like anything else I saw in Test Rugby this year, or most years. All players assuming the whistle had gone and just letting Ferguson dive over. And then we have this Moon Howler by Montpellier, suggested by Patrick. As the second half kicked off, they just let all of this happen, committing cardinal sin after rugby cardinal sin, and eventually leading La Rochelle to somehow score, almost by accident. But the most frequent shout, the most requested one, was this score, once again stripped from the kickoff by Harry Randall for Bristol, just seconds into the final of last season's Challenge Cup. I also want to throw out there this mad thing by Chile against Brazil in the South America Four Nations. Some great footwork by Rodrigo Fernandez, who links up with Matthias Garafulik, then, quick thinking, stabs through a Lloyd Williams goal-phase kick, except Brazil take out the chaser, only for Jose Ignacio Larenas to follow up and dive on it over the line. A glorious and wonderfully silly try that deserves more eyes. I loved it. Chile, incidentally, by the way, just a quick aside, had a brilliant year, beating Uruguay in a fantastic performance that no doubt made them so proud of their country, and then pushed Argentina to the 84th minute, coming so close to what would have been a pretty phenomenal scalp, even if admittedly in an uncapped match. Anyway, sorry, what was I talking about? Tries. I was talking about tries, right? Okay. Huge mention has to go to Georgi Kevaladze, who put his stamp on the Georgia 13 jersey a few months after channel favourite David the Nightmare Kasharava announced his retirement, and in the same movement, Kevaladze changed his life forever, tearing Ireland open and winning himself a contract with Gloucester to boot. The first Georgian back to ever play in the Premiership. This great long-range team try from New Zealand is pretty fantastic, eventually finished by Blackfern Stacey Flula. And then in the same league, we have this incredibly slick rugbying, again finished by Canterbury captain Elena Bremner. This try, finished by Italy's Matthias Bellini, was also pretty slick, but frankly seems quite low effort compared to what we keep seeing, so we might as well move on to the big two. This try in second place, as the graphic helpfully says, was finished by Nemani Famai, is so good, I'm just going to let you watch it.
And now Kurt Baker offloads in the tackle. Another pass of great skill being shown by Hawke's Bay. McClutchy shows the ball on the outside. Now the grubber. It's a foot race. Here comes Formai. What a try, no!
It's good, isn't it? Yeah. However, because we're operating in tight margins, this only takes second place because I'll never be allowed back over the bridge if I don't give something to Wales over this week. So, hence, Wales' phenomenal start to the second half at Twickenham is the Squidge Rugby Try of the Year 2020. A perfect piece of improvised skill and support of Justin Tipuric, eventually the man there to score under the post. It's a genuinely properly brilliant try and scored international level, so you get bonus points for scoring at higher intensity, don't you? That's how it works. There we are. Next question. This leaves us with only one more award. The best rugby match in the year that infamously had no rugby matches. For a year with seemingly more think pieces on why rugby is shit than actual matches, this year was actually overstuffed with really great games. We had two very strong late contenders just a week before Christmas, with Munster coming back from 28-6 down after 20 minutes to beat Claremont out in Claremont, and then just hours earlier, Gloucester and Ulster staging one of the best back and forth games in front of, for 2020, felt like a record crowd. It was a very even first half that saw Gloucester pull away, only for them to do a Gloucester and let Ulster take complete control of the two-score lead. However, it remained alive for Gloucester to score in the last play and win the game. Bristol played out two extraordinary contenders, one stupidly high-scoring fixture against Claremont and then another intense midweeker against Exeter that shone as the highlight of the rebooted calendar. Two contrasting teams going hammer and tongs and playing out opposing tactics, feeling each other out. And Super Rugby was just so full of entertaining games. They all kind of stopped standing out and they just became one like homogenised, really good rugby match. I could stop name dropping them, but then I'd just be reading the fixture list. In the international sphere, we had a great game between Scotland and France in the Six Nations. We had a really fun encounter between Georgia and Fiji, a banger between Wales and France in Cardiff, a really good game in Cardiff. But ultimately, there were three matches that, for me, stood up above all others. I present the top three. It's four. There's four of them. There's four. In our number 4, we have the final of the Autumn Nations Cup. This young French team were totally written off and yet took control of Twickenham for 79 minutes of back and forth, managing it with maturity not expected or frankly in some ways wanted from usual magic duo Matthew Jalibert and Louis Carbonell. However, Luke Ndicky's last minute try gave us extra time amongst the tensest passage of rugby from the entire year. Owen Farrell eventually stepped up to win it and give England the trophy. The tense theme continues into number 3. And I'm going to say, I had so much difficulty ordering this list. I had so much difficulty putting these 4 in any sort of order, so they could be in any order on any day. But number 3 today was the first test back after lockdown. The opening Bledisloe game, the infamous draw between New Zealand and Australia. Just having test rugby with its intricacies and erosion, the 80-minute design and highest level skills back was exciting enough, but then it built and built. A 2-try comeback from the Wallabies had us on edge before a penalty by James O'Connor put them ahead with just minutes remaining. Whilst the All Blacks equalised, things only built from there. A 60-metre recharge penalty funded off the bar. The All Blacks played it from deep. They almost managed to get up the line. Australia regathered. New Zealand turned it over. They made it into 22. They almost scored. Michael Hooper turned it over. James O'Connor remembered his mum is waiting in the car park, so he should probably put it out. The game ended. No one knew how to feel, but everyone was up and shouting and screaming and so thrilled by what they'd just seen. Maybe the most incredible breathless end-to-end match I've ever seen. Any of us who got up at 4 a.m. to watch that will never forget the infamous 90-minute match. In at number 2, we have another game between England and France, this time from the other end of the year. The first game of the 2026 Nations and the highest intensity, fiercest and most compelling and engrossing women's test I've genuinely ever watched. This was a proper stand-up and shout game of rugby, where any big carry or smash scrum felt like a turning point, yet the ball was constantly seeing air and space was being found, but never as much space as Amber Reid and Emily Scarrett were able to create, combining to create the try that sealed the game, despite superb performances across the entire French team. An incredible game that I'll probably still be mentioning in 10 years' time as a watermark moment for women's rugby. But number 1 couldn't be anything else, could it? The day collective cries of "Vamos" could be heard from outer space. Argentina's historic, iconic, forever famous win over the All Blacks. Pablo Matera, Marcos Kramer and Nico Sanchez each had possibly the game of their career, the best they've ever played, with each ever Argentine, backing them up by playing out of their skin. New Zealand contributed as well. They were very good, but they weren't able to do much as a superb, supreme Argentina shut them down and left them looking like a semi-pro side. They're the All Blacks. It was a perfect Pumas performance, possibly the best they've ever given in their history, and a day that will remain in rugby history for decades at least. A brilliant day, an incredible occasion, a remarkable result, but more than that, a really, really good game. And that brings us through to the end of this kind of end-of-year jamboree, this celebration of the good bits of 2020. Thank you for watching everything you have. The whole Team of the Year is up now at both parts of these awards, so please have a look at them if you haven't. Otherwise, I want to quickly acknowledge that there were plenty of players in the Team of the Year that I genuinely just forgot, or things in these awards that since I hadn't seen the Roscoe's Beckman finish that a lot of people are bringing up, so that's going to go at the end of this video. But that deserves a mention for finish of the year, and there'll be plenty more examples like that I just haven't seen or forgot. Like a lot of Super Rugby Unlocked, because it clashed with the Autumn Nations Cup. I didn't get to see as much as I would have liked of that, which I recognise sort of biased me against it, but that kind of became part of the whole weird year, and you couldn't quite, fit everything in. So apologies for that. There's a lot I forgot or missed out or whatever it was. However, thank you to everyone that's contributed, that's been guessing along, that's been watching along with these as we go, that's been making other suggestions. I really appreciate them. I'm going back to the podcast on the 2011 World Cup. That's going to be resuming in a few days' time. Just been listening to that. If you want to go back and listen to other episodes, they're hopefully all entertaining and fun, if you want to listen to those. And otherwise, I will see you soon for more rugby, presuming rugby still continues. Who knows what's going on anymore. Thank you.